There are 5 ways you can elevate your speaking and your confidence. So I'm going to talk through each one of these ways and give you examples of how you can implement them. So the first way is to have a clear message. Have a clear message which goes through the whole of your speech. One of the biggest problems I find when I'm initially working with clients is I get them to present to me, and at the end of the presentation, I'm going, you've got 2 or 3 different messages intertwined there. I want one key message. And so sometimes you have to roll it up to get that one key message. Because if you have that key message, everything you then deliver, everything you talk about, all your slides, all your content, your pictures, whatever you use, should be related some way to that one key message. It also will help your audience remember if you know exactly what that key message is, because then if you repeat it, they will remember it. Second point is set your intention. What's your intention behind your presentation? Do you want to educate, inspire, inform, entertain? What's the intention behind it? And maybe you want to do a combination of each one of those. Whatever it is, set it before you start creating. Set it before you start building. Because if you've created something and then you go, I need to set my intention to be humorous and to be entertaining, and you've got something which is very dry, that's going to be a really hard challenge. So think about, okay, how do I want to come across? Who is the real me, and how do I get to show the real me? Is the real me an educator? Do I like to educate people? Okay, how can I do it in a way that will both engage and educate at the same time? Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is be explicit, forget implicit. Sometimes when I listen to people, they are very implicit and are kind of quite subtle in the points they're trying to erase, and they expect the audience to pull out those sublime, those underlying messages. Most of the time, it doesn't happen because they're so implicit, they're so subtle that people can't pick them out. Remember, you've probably been working on this for weeks or not even months, the content of what you're talking about. And so you've got a lot of connections within your head, and you know how it all fits together, and you can make jumps from one point to another point easily. Your audience don't have that. They don't have that knowledge. You've got to impart all your knowledge in 5, 10, 15 minutes. And so you've got to make sure you're quite explicit in how A connects to B and what you want them to do as a result of listening to you. Yeah, we all have actions, whether it's a call to actions where you want to go away and do some other further work, whether you're explaining about what the structure of the organization is going to be and you want them to input. Whatever your action is that you want them to do, make sure it's really explicit in such a way that at the end of the presentation you should be able to go up to anybody in that audience and say, I'm curious, what do you want me to do? What have you taken away from that? And what they've taken away should be exactly what you want them to do. Number 4 is become your audience's sat nav. Too many times, I can't remember how many times. Somebody I'm working with will start off and they'll present one slide, then they'll jump to another slide, then they'll jump to another slide. And there's no transition between those slides. So they're basically 3 points of data and they're explained individually, but there's no transition between each of those. You know, if you think about you're going down to, I travel back and forth from the M25 down to Wales. So I go around the M25 down the M4. Yeah, and I know when I'm coming to a junction to get off the M25 to go into the M4, my sat nav is telling me you need to stay in the left-hand lane, you're coming up to you, and then you filter right. As you're going through, you'll pass Reading, you'll pass Oxford. It tells me places I'm going to pass, and then how far I'm away and how I pass them. Speaking and presenting ideas is no different. I've got this idea. This is what I'm creating, and what I'm going to do with this idea is get you to understand how it makes a big impact in our team, how it'll change the way we work, and then what we need to do there afterwards to make sure we can implement it and measure it. Okay, there are 3 ways I'm going to show how that's done. The first way is, and so simple phrases like that will help you weave those individual points together. Your audience will thank you because they won't have to overthink, and they'll just follow your flow a lot easier. And the 5th piece is finish on a high. Too many times I've seen people who've presented a good presentation go, okay, yeah, thank you. Any questions, answers? And they're so desperate to get off stage, to get out of the spotlight, that they finish so fast, they sit down, and you're kind of going, wow, that was really good, but now the guy's left. What am I going to do? And so what you want to make sure is you finish on a high. How I like to always finish is can you imagine when you first started flying, when you first started going on holiday, you'd come to the plane, you'd been in the plane, and you'd been traveling for 2-3 hours on an airplane. And I remember going to Spain many years ago, and I think we were going to Benidorm, and I was quite young, and I remember we got to the plane landed, the air hostesses, as they were then, opened the doors, and you just stood and you waited for the stairs to go down onto the tarmac to come to the end. But as you stepped out of the plane, out of that cold air-conditioned environment, and felt the warmth of the Spanish sun, you looked around and it was different. It was sandy, it was dry, it was warm, and it was like, oh, this is amazing. And that's how you want to finish as well. You finish on a high, as if you're just stepping off that plane into a new country, a country you're really excited to go and visit. And you go, ah. If you can imagine that feeling and then get yourself and your audience to finish on a high, they will remember you for it, they will thank you for it, and they'll want you to speak again because you help them appreciate what good speaking is about, what clear communication is about, and how easy it is to do if you're using the right techniques. So they're my 5 key points. I want you to see, how do you implement them? Yeah, so just pick one, anyone, doesn't matter what one, go and implement it, get some feedback, build it, put 2 on, put 3 on, put 4 on, put 5 on. All of a sudden, you'll have such a different impact when you speak, and you'll have much greater influence.